Hello beer drinkers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hoppers. Today, drinking some classic English beer. So we're checking out some beer from Fuller's and a beer that I figured I never reviewed, at least in the bottle format. So we're actually doing a review in about damn time of a bottle of Fuller's London Pride. So I reviewed this on cask and I've reviewed loads of Fuller's beers over the years, but never from the bottle. And Fuller's has not been available in my areas of Denmark for God knows how long. It seems quite a while. I did maybe 3 years ago or something like that. I did a couple throwback videos on some of their stuff. For example, the ESB I really liked. But since then, everything's pretty much been gone. So yeah, I haven't seen anything since. And randomly, I was shopping at a local grocery store, and they had loads of Fuller's beers. And I took a bottle. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be old stuff." And I had a look. I was like, "Holy crap! This looks like it's a fresh bottle from March." So I had to get some and try it. So because the bottling date is usually a year for these kind of beers, or the best before date. So usually give them a year, and this is best before the 1st of March 25. So I'm thinking this is from the 1st of March 24, which is surprising. Like the company that usually imports these, in the past at least, would have, like you'd go to places, I think it's just also because where they sold beer, because they of course only don't get old beer over. And the case in point with some of the stuff, like they got fresh Celebration Ale over for Christmas. But I think like a lot of the beers from these classic brands are beers that end up in a lot of random places, supermarkets and stuff, where they just sit on shelves for ages. Before being sold out. But I really had an inkling to drink Fuller's, and then there was, or just fresh, like classic English beer, and there's fresh Fuller's on the shelves there, alongside Shipwreck Neem and what was the last one? Speckled Hen. Is that Marston's that makes them these days? I can't remember. I haven't looked up on many of these breweries in a long time because they've been not available in Denmark. But like what got me into beer was this stuff, like English, old school English styles. A lot of people in Denmark start with German beer, at least they did in the past. Now they just jump right in with hazies and everything. But when I was getting into beer, a lot of people were either coming from drinking German beer or Belgian beer. But for me, it was the English stuff. I remember just trying Badger's Golden Champion. That's the beer I can thank for being into beer. That was my eye opener. So ever since I tried that, I was like, best bitters, ESBs, I need that stuff. So London Pride, this is an iconic beer. It's probably Fuller's flagship, most sold beer. Fuller's a few years back was bought up by Asahi, but the family that owned Fuller's kept the rights to their pubs. Yeah, London Pride, outstanding amber ale, it says on here. It's an English pale ale, to my knowledge, as far as I remember. And they've always I think they've also always just called it London Pride. I don't remember it says amber ale on the label, but that might be due to the color. Like most people these days would look at this like, this is not pale. Well, pale ales weren't usually pale as like, Pilsners. They were more like this, which is, classic beer history. Like beer hasn't always been the way it is today. Like that's why you also have golden ales. They're paler than pale ales, which is interesting in the UK. So 4.7%. I found some info on Fuller's web shop, and if you want to go through my back catalog, you can find some fun Fuller's old Fuller's videos of me reviewing Fuller's beers, and also a brewery tour video. Or is it 2 segments? One is a tour, one is a tasting in the cellars, or the tasting room. So it's made with pale ale malt, crystal malt, and chocolate malt, and then the hops are Target, Goldings, Northdown, and Challenger. It says that this is a tawny colored premium ale that borrows sweet raisin, biscuit, and dried fruit notes from the crystal malt, while fresh piney herbs emanates from the hops. Rich, smooth, and elegant on the palate, it draws a clean, satisfying finish with a beautiful balanced bitterness. So pours an amber color, as the bottle states. I'm using my Fuller's glass. Man, this is a huge snifter. I wanted to use this instead of the Nonic because I have a Fuller's Nonic pint glass just because this is easier to smell from. But yeah, the head that poured out was nice and frothy and like off-white, but it settled really quickly because as with a lot of British beer, CO2 levels are not like massive. So Yeah, let's check out Fuller's London Pride for the first time in years. How long? I don't know. Maybe at least 10 years. That smells so fucking nostalgic. It's like, oh my lord, like this is almost like if you grew up as a video game kid, this is almost like being away from like Super Mario 64. Put it back in, turn it on. Music, everything's like everything comes back to you. That's the way I'm feeling while smelling it. So I'm also thinking with some of these throwback videos is like, how much is nostalgia with these things? Is it because I'm just like so nostalgic about like, oh, that was when I got into this? But man, it smells good. It smells quintessentially English. It's like biscuity, it's bready, it's got some toffee nuances, and a nice hop character. But one of the big things is also, although they say finish is clean, there's definitely yeast characters to this. There is like apricot, maybe like a little bit of yeah, it's definitely apricot, dried apricots or something like that, and also like just a little bit of raisin. But they talk about the raisin coming from the crystal malts, which makes sense. But yeah, this feels very, very, very vibrant and very apricot-y, very jammy, very fruit estery like. You can see why this kind of yeast is the yeast that's used these days, or something similar, akin to this, is used for hazy IPAs because it just provides such a nice fruity backdrop to everything. Like it's not like it's so different from smelling that they talk about clean beer. If you think clean beer, you think lager. This smells way different. It's also toasty, a bit of marmalade on toast, almost like a slight soapy nuance to it. But like it's big apricot jam for me. It smells pretty much like what I think of when I think of English pale ale, and it smells really enticing, and it smells like something I hope more people will brew again. It's so funny when you start to come full circle. This smells good. Let's try it. Cheers. You can drink so much of this. Like, oh man, this just takes me back. Like, this is never going to be the best English pale ale in the world, but it's just a good one. It's like, I can see why I have an affinity for hoppy beer with drinking this. Because it has assertive bitterness without being too much and a lot of hop flavor. But it's like this classic British nettle thing, but with some citrus and marmalade-y, like citrusy vibes, and also the apricot. Like I can totally see like this is where the hop head blossoms for me. Because what I was into when I was getting into beer was like, I like dark beers, but what I really was stoked on was the English pale ales and IPAs and ESBs and whatnot, because it had more hop flavor, I guess. I guess I was a hophead when I started getting into beer as well. It's because I really love those flavor profiles. This is a fresh bottle, so maybe that's also why I'm enjoying it. But I've had this in bad in bad condition as well, really bad condition. I've had this on cask where it's just been like so off and slightly soy saucy meets or marmite like or something meets diacetyl because it's like dead yeast and oxidation, and like I definitely had some really, really bad London Pride, but this bottle is pretty good, and I think that's because it's really fresh. And this is pretty much what an English pale ale should taste like. And I'm sure if you're a modern beer geek, this is gonna be boring to you. It's gonna not have enough flavor. It's not gonna smack you around enough. But it's not what it's trying to be. It's trying to be an English pale ale. English pale ales are hoppy, hop-forward ales with more fruit flavor and everything that you're maybe used to if you're a lager drinker. But it's never supposed to be like American pale ale because it's English. Or again, they say amber ale. I wonder, are they actually calling this an amber ale on Untapped? Let's see. Fuller's London Pride. They call it a bitter. Interesting. At least down here. And I think this is brewery managed. So I'm guessing they are doing that themselves. 30 IBUs, so that's why it has a good amount of bitterness. Oh, I knew it. Oh man, I've been harsh to this as well. That's what I talked about, having this in the past. Not loving it. It's got an average of 3.41. But wow, it's such a mix, man. With my friends drinking this, like some people love it, some people hate it. It's interesting. It's categorized as a bitter. I actually thought it, and this is also stronger. It says 4.1. This is 4.7. It's probably something like there's different like ABVs in terms of cask beer and keg beer and bottled beer in the UK. And also one thing it seems like they've got away with and don't do anymore at Fuller's is bottle conditioning, because that's something they used to advertise on all their bottles in the past. They've actually done an unfiltered version in 2017, which was brewed according to the original recipe, but dry hopped with target hops and then centrifuged and packaged, but it was not filtered or pasteurized. I'm guessing they even pasteurize the bottles these days. But I just remember in the past, one of the things, like they really put pride in saying that a lot of the Fuller's beers were bottle conditioned, but maybe it was not all of them. I can't remember. It's like, again, it's been years since I really got into these. I still think this is a really good bottle of English Pale Ale or Bitter or Amber Ale, as it says on the bottle. And I think it's because it's reasonably fresh. So there's a lot of vibrant hop character. There's the crystal malts and like toffee nuances, citrusy, grapefruity, not grapefruit, citrusy, orange, marmalade-y kind of flavors. Almost like a little bit of, what's the citrus called that you candy and usually use for Christmas? Bergamot, a little bit, something like that, like slightly perfumey-esque, and then, or maybe soapy, some people would say as well, and then like paired with like the stone fruit characteristic, that like apricot-y kind of vibe underneath and everything, and then like biscuity breadiness and whatnot. It's pretty good. There's definitely a decent amount of stuff going on. So it's interesting. It's hard to figure out online what this is. The brewers themselves says amber ale. Otherwise, online, a lot of places it says bitter, and some places it says English Pale Ale. So it's everything. But I think it definitely plays into this bitter/pale ale territory. I'm thinking the amber ale is just for marketing these days, because people will get this and then look at it and see it's not very pale, because pale beers these days are very golden yellow and light. But that's why they were called golden ales. But this is really good. I'm actually really stoked on this bottle. I would love to have another one after this. This is still a nice class of beer. It's a nice class of bitter, pale ale, whatever floats your boat. It makes me want to try more English beer. Again, I can't say if this is the best around, but a fresh bottle right now is very nice. And I need to get more in tune with classic beer, as I have been with lager these last few years, especially recently. You're just drinking so much high quality lager, you get really in tune. You say, yeah, this is really, really good and whatnot. Because like it's like almost 15 years, it's 15 years ago for sure, I was getting in, like really drinking these beers and being so into these English beers. And I was really in the know back then of what was best. But right now, having been away from it for so long, I don't know. And there's probably things that are better. I think the best like bitter type beer, bitter, I think that's called a bitter, is from 5 Points. So yeah, it's called 5 Points Bitter. That's probably the best like memory I have of drinking British bitter. That's just like, this is nuts. This is crazy, crazy great. But this is still good. I mean, for a supermarket product and whatnot, I'm pretty surprised how much I'm enjoying it. And I'm actually, again, I want to drink the entire bottle and I want to drink another one. In terms of a grade, I don't think it's as, like, I think, again, remember 5 Points Best Bitter is just like so good. I don't think this is nearly as good as that, but I'm still going to score it like an 88 or something like that. I still think it's a fairly good British bitter. Slash pale ale slash amber ale. It's really good. I don't know if it's also because I have a bit of a nostalgic relationship with Fuller's, if that's coloring my mind, but really it tastes good. I mean, I think so, and it tastes like what I remember this style should taste like, and it's a fresh bottle, which is also a big plus. Like with imports and everything, always look at dates. With any beer, freshness is often key. So this was a long video. I got a lot of editing to do, a lot of nostalgic talks. So if you guys had a chance to try it, Fuller's London Pride, let me know what you thought of it. But I reviewed it from the bottle for the first time now in 2024. Fucking nuts. Over almost 15 years ago since I started the channel, and I haven't reviewed this beer. Stupido. At least from the bottle. I did it on cask, as I said in the beginning. But yeah, if you guys had this in recent time, let me know what you thought of it. As always, comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up, enjoy it, and ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I'm going to say cheers and some fantastic British bitter, pale ale, whatever you want to call it. British pale beer. Let's call it that. And say cheers and see you guys in another beer review.